What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2019 Honda Civic Touring. Huge thanks to Honda for flying me out here to New York to review this refreshed version of the Civic for you guys today. So about the 2019 Civic, well, it's still mostly the same as the one that was introduced back in 2016, but has had a few tweaks here to make it look a little bit more modern and just update it a little bit to continue to keep it fresh looking. And so up front here on the Touring trim, you have these LED headlamps, and I really like the accent lighting you have going through them as well. And a little bit of a more chrome you can see here on the front of the Touring. Now if you go for the sport versions, which now you can get the sport trim in both the sedan and also still the hatch like you used to be able to, and the coupe as well. And so with that you get a little bit more of a darker look up front there. But with these ones here, the Touring, the top of the line, it's a little more luxurious looking with the chrome there. And I actually think it really looks nice. It's nicely separates it from other Civics and really helps it to stand out a little bit more. You also have these nice 18-inch wheels here that look really good. And going down towards the sides there, you see the fastback kind of profile that the Civic sedans have. And I think it's a really good look, honestly. It's a little more unique than the traditional, more boxy looking sedans you see from other car companies. And I think it's, again, another little thing to differentiate the Civic. Going out back, you have those large tail lamps, which I really like. I still think they're very kind of futuristic looking, although they are large and, you know, not quite as discreet as some of the competitors maybe. But I really like the way that it looks. You have a little bit of a lip spoiler there, and they also restyled the rear bumper as well as the front. And so with the rear there, you can see it's just a little bit tweaked. And again, not huge changes, but again, we're talking about one of the best-selling vehicles in America, and so you don't want to mess with success too much. And so they just, you know, freshen it up a little bit, you know, all around the vehicle here. But overall, I think it's still a really great look.
Whereas the interior of the 2019 Civic, well, it's mostly the same, but they did do some nice little improvements here throughout the cabin. So first off, sitting down in these seats, you have these nice, mostly leather seats here in the Touring. You have this little stripe here of cloth. Otherwise, though, it's they're heated seats as well, and they have a pretty good amount of bolstering. I wouldn't say it's best in class as far as sportiness goes, but, you know, for an all-around blend of sportiness and also comfort, of course, since the Civic, again, is a very widespread vehicle and, you know, is sold to people of all different types of tastes and sizes as well. I think these seats fit very well, even for a small guy like me. I mean, you know, they hug you in pretty nicely and good amount of bolstering here even down by the thighs. And so overall, very comfortable seats too, although you don't have any adjustable lumbar, but there are other, you know, seat adjustments, of course, to get a really good seating position. Next, the steering wheel here in the Civic, which is really great. I love the steering wheel, which has really nice 9-3 grips here, the little cutouts for your thumbs, nice little 10-2 notches, and it's a nicely leather-wrapped wheel, a little bit thicker, which I really appreciate. You just have a few buttons here on it to control your cruise control and then your radio and the gauge cluster there, but very straightforward and easy to understand. And also here on the Touring, you have paddle shifters as well, which is a cool little feature. Next are the gauges here in the Civic, which I've always loved. They're the same as they were, you know, from the past couple of years here, but Civic was one of the first to introduce the digital gauges into this price category and segment, and they still are some of the best looking ones out there in my opinion. Now you still have the little non-animated graphics there, you know, for the fuel and coolant, but, you know, for the middle there, that is all completely digital and has a very three-dimensional kind of look to the graphics as well. Very high resolution. I also love that on the turbocharged ones, whether it's the SI or here in the standard Civics, you still have a boost gauge, which is awesome as an enthusiast to be able to keep an eye on how your turbo is doing, and so that's very much appreciated. I also love, you know, the large tachometer. I love the large digital speed readout, just really well designed there. But you can also scroll through, you know, for fuel economy. You can display your audio there with a nice large display for that, navigation, phone, whatever you want in there. And so overall, it's nicely simplified and I think looks really good. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, so you have this 7-inch display audio screen, which has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in it, and it's very nice and easy touchscreen. But the main tweak here is that you now have a volume knob. That was something that the Civics haven't had for the past few years. Now you still had buttons here on the steering wheel, and there was a slider here that you used to have, but now they went back to a good old-fashioned volume knob, which is great. And so this infotainment menu setup is similar to the old Civics, though still, you know, from the past few years. Again, it's not the newer system that I like in the Accord. That has customizable tiles you can move around and a little bit of a larger screen size. This is still a little bit small, especially considering some of the competitors offer 8-inch displays, or like the brand new Mazda has a very widescreen slim display. This looks a little bit dated, I think, and I would have been nice to see them, you know, put the same screen in here that you get in like the Accord or something. but still is gets the job done very well with all the basics. You have navigation here in the top trim as well. Coming down, you just have a few buttons here for your climate control, but that otherwise is also mirrored up here on the screen. And then storage space. Storage space is, I think, Civic does it still better than anyone else. And even though all of the competitors are basically brand new now, they still don't match the Civic in storage space, not even close. So first off, in the doors, you have nice large map pockets here with a large bottle holder. And that's something they actually made larger here for the 2019s. Coming over to the center, first up top here, you have this little rubberized mat, which is really nice and spacious, can fit all size smartphones in there. And there's also a cord pass through because, as you'll see, there's this lower area that is also rubberized and also a very large space, and that's where you'll find your USB jack and also a power outlet in there. And so great to have all of those tucked away. And then that's not it though. That would be a lot of storage already. But then you have this whole center area. You see these two cup holders, and then you can push those back, and then you'll see an even deeper, large bottle holder. If you want to have a really tall bottle or something, it'll fit in there, no problem. Also another USB jack in there. And then you look towards the rear here, and then you will see the padded armrest, which is pretty nice and softly padded. It's a little bit on the firm side, but so far it's been comfortable for my elbow for driving around. And anyway, you can lift that up, and then you'll see another little tray that slides forwards and backwards for change or something small like that. And then you have this, again, this hugely cavernous area that is underneath of those cup holders, and so just tons and tons of space. I mean, there's a lot of family SUVs that have less storage space than the Civic does. It's amazing how much they crammed into this compact package, and so 10 out of 10 as far as storage space for the Civic. Backseat space here for the Civic is also fantastic, and again, even with some of the newest competitors that are out, they still can't match the Civic in rear legroom. I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I easily have about 4 inches of legroom to spare. Hondas are always very spacious with their back seats in these newest ones. The new Accord is also, I think, best in class as far as its legroom. I mean, but anyway, the Civic is just, it's very spacious, very comfortable back seats here, especially with the leather trim of the Touring here. And anyway, also another nice feature of the Touring is you look forward and you'll see that the outboard rear seats are heated as well, which is kind of unheard of in this class, and not too many offer that, and that's very cool to have. You also have a fold down center armrest with two cup holders built into it, and that's a nice soft padding for the armrest there as well. Trunk space here in the Civic is also fantastic and very spacious. It's actually about the same amount of space you get in even some of the mid-sized competitors like the Camry. So that's the type of trunk space we're dealing with here. I mean, a nice wide opening and also very deep. If you need more length, you can also fold down the rear seats and have even more space there. If you look underneath the floor, all you'll see is a spare tire, but nice that they still are including a spare tire, but no additional cubbies or anything underneath there. But most of the competitors don't have any space under there either, so totally fine there, and just overall a fantastic, space for trunk. I mean, if you need more space, you can go up to the hatchback version if you'd like, and that gives you even more. But I mean, for a sedan here, this is a really plentiful amount of space. All right, so start, I'm going for a drive. The Civic here has this very slim key still. I really love their key. Has a nice weight to it, but very nice and small. Just a few buttons here on the back. Doesn't feel cheap or anything like some of the competing keys do though. So for comparing keys, this is one of the nicer ones in the segment as well. But of course, it's keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start here in the Touring trim. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2019 Honda Civic Touring. So first thing you notice, visibility is excellent, like even better than I remember it being in other Civics like the the Coupe and the Type R that I reviewed in the past. I mean, you just have an excellent view forward. The dashboard seems a little bit shorter, so that seems a little bit easier to see. A pretty thin A-pillar, though you do have this little bit of a blockage here, but it's really thin, so not an issue whatsoever. And view out of the back is also really great. But we're gonna go ahead and put it into sport mode and merge onto this highway here, and let's see how it does. Okay. So it gets up and goes pretty well, for a compact sedan. We're not talking about anything sporty, of course. Like I said, you can go for the sportier versions of the Civic if you want more punch. But the nice thing here is, so with these higher trims of the Civic, you get this 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It does 174 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque, and it's all running through a CVT, which is the only downside of this combo, in my opinion. It just has a little bit more droniness to it. It's not bad in sport mode here, and you do have paddle shifters. We can try those out here real quick. it just is a little bit lazier. So, you know, Honda's known for their manual transmissions, and you can still get many versions of the Civic, including the non-sporty ones. Even in the normal Civic, you can still get a manual transmission on some trims if you want. So that would be my pick still, is to go for a manual. But if you must have an automatic, I mean, the CVT is fine, and in most people's circumstances and daily driving and stuff, it's not going to be too bad. But if you are on the sportier side, you'll notice that it's not quite as precise as a normal automatic. Now, the CVT does allow you to get better fuel economy, and that's why all these car companies are switching to them. And it is a smooth ride. You know, you don't have any jerkiness of shifts or anything, so that's nice. I mean, it does try and act like an automatic at times, you know, where it'll give you like a shift in a way, but then it just like sits at 4,000 RPMs because that's, you know, where peak power is made. But yeah, so anyway, for this version of the Civic here, 0 to 60 is going to be around 7 seconds, which is a pretty solid performance. I mean, are some sportier vehicles that, you know, can't do much quicker than that, and even the Civic Si isn't that much quicker in a straight line, although it is, you know, you do have, you know, an extra 30-odd horsepower, but, you know, this is still, you know, a pretty good amount of performance. And if you don't need as much performance, you can still, in the lowest two trims of the Civic, get the naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder, and that has 158 horsepower, so a little bit less, you know, but still not that much less, honestly. And so it is kind of cool the Civic gives you this much power, though. It's kind of a mid in between, because you have some of the naturally aspirated stuff still from competitors like the Toyota Corolla, which has a little less horsepower, and then you have some other competitors like the Mazda 3, which has slightly more horsepower, you know, and we're only talking, you know, 5 or 10 horsepower here differences, so very, very minor. And one great thing with the Civic is it's pretty low curb weight too, so these weigh just under 3,000 pounds, around 2963, and so, you know, that means that even though you don't have a ton of power, you don't need a ton of power to get it up and going very quickly. And so yeah, it's a nice cruising thing. So now we're out on the highway here. Another nice thing with the Civic here is you have Honda Sensing is standard on every single Civic. So even the base bare bones Civic gets Honda Sensing, which means bare bones Civics get adaptive cruise control, get actual lane keep assist, not just warnings, but it'll actually center you in the lane and help you steer. And those systems are both very impressive. I tested those extensively on a long road trip last year in the new Honda Accord Sport, and really enjoyed you know, the way that is on the highway. And you know, the Civic is a really nice highway cruiser as well. One thing I will say about it versus a lot of its competitors is there's a lot less road noise. It's a quieter, more refined interior, especially than Corolla. Corolla has a lot more road noise than this does, and so you kind of just feel like you're a little more better insulated from the world around you in the Civic than you do in something like the Corolla. But getting back to the safety features here of the Civic, so it has the, you know, adaptive cruise control, but it doesn't do full speed adaptive cruise. So it will follow and, you know, crawl at lower speeds, but it doesn't go all the way to a stop like some of its competitors do. But it still is nice because a lot of the other competitors do make you pay still for adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. And so the fact that this has those as standard is really, really awesome. One interesting thing though, so I'm in the Touring trim, which is the fully loaded top of the line trim, and you still don't have blind spot monitoring. So you do have Honda's unique camera on the passenger side mirror, and so when you put on your right turn signal, then that will show you what's going on there and give you a little bit of a warning if there's a car. But you know, it would be nice to have something over your left shoulder, because I mean, the B-pillars, they're not super chunky, but you know, you really don't have any blocked vision or anything. But it would still be nice, you know, again, if you're really going to be going full on with all the safety stuff, it would be nice to have blind spot monitoring included as well. And that's something that this doesn't have, and that's something that a lot of the competitors don't have as standard, but they do offer it. And so that's the only thing that's missing safety-wise here in, you know, this top Civic. All right, so now we're going around some corners here, not going at any kind of crazy speeds or anything, but it does give me a nice sampling for the Civic's handling here, which is, you know, definitely very planted. That's the thing. The Civic feels very solid going around corners. I will say it isn't the lightest and most tossable feeling vehicle in this class. I think the Corolla still just feels a little lighter. It has lighter steering. It's a lot more tossable. This, you know, has a little bit of a more substantial feeling to it without feeling quite as heavy as like the new Mazda 3 or something like that. But still is very agile. I mean, it's pretty flat handling too for just, again, a normal Civic. You know, it's not sloppy or anything. And especially like the steering has a pretty heavy weight to it. Pretty sporty, more sporty than I was expecting for a standard Civic, honestly. But feels very good. Also, brakes feel so natural and just exactly the way you'd want them to feel personally, at least for me. They just feel spot on. You also have really good throttle response, although that is a little bit more, I guess, vague because of the CVT, which does like to let the RPMs wander around. The more that I've been driving this vehicle today, the more, you know, it does kind of wander and it feels a little unnatural still. I'm not in love with this CVT. I do think I prefer Toyota's CVT with its real first gear for launching, and then whenever you're up and running, then their CVT also is a little bit quicker with its manual shifts and a little more precise feeling than this one. This one's still, it's okay, it's not bad, and again, for most people just daily driving, it's gonna nicely work in the background, you won't even notice it, and it's all good. But you know, for the traditionalists that do want a normal automatic, Mazda still offers that with the Mazda 3, so that's something to keep in mind. But the transmission is still, you know, totally fine. Like I said, throttle response is still very, I mean, for a turbo motor too, I mean, I just tip in and I immediately start getting a nice response out of it. But I mean, we have these very scenic roads here, very beautiful, but again, not super high speed roads or anything. It's a pretty small little mountain road here, but it is just really tight handling, which I really appreciate, especially since there aren't any kind of guardrails or anything here. And it feels very good. So everything's very natural feeling about the Civic. I think that's, again, part of its mainstream appeal is it's fun enough for enthusiasts, and obviously they have enthusiast offerings if you want to go for like the Sport Hatch, which has a few more horsepower, or you go up to the SI or the Type R, which is the top dog and is a phenomenal vehicle to drive if you're an enthusiast, and you can check out my review of those if you'd like. But yeah, so you know, but even for the normal Civic here, it's sporty enough to still be fun, and you know, it's still comfortable enough. I mean, the ride is very smooth. Like I said earlier, it's pretty quiet and refined in here, and soaks up bumps very nicely. Again, better than it probably you would expect it to for a vehicle, again, in the compact class. This does really, really well with all that. And so there's a lot of ways where this does feel a class above. Now, you know, I think like the interior and stuff, I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more upgrades for the 2019 refresh here. You know, you still have some hard plastic down by the transmission tunnel, which is an area where some other manufacturers are now starting to improve and put some padding down here, and a few other places just to make it feel a little more high quality. One thing though that is nice about this CVT is its fuel economy. You know, that's why these manufacturers go with the CVTs. And this one helps the Civic with the turbo motor here, which again is what you get in the EX and up trims of the Civic. With this, the setup that we're running here, we get 32 mpg in the city, we get 42 on the highway for a combined average of 36. In my driving here, I've been doing over the course of the afternoon here, which was some city, some highway, I was averaging about 30 mpg, so a few less than the combined that I was hoping to see. But again, I would have to have one of these for a full week to do a proper in-depth, you know, review on the fuel economy. But like many other small turbo four-cylinder engines, you know, this one, it's probably going to be the most efficient whenever you have a very light right foot. And if you do want that turbo to kick in, you want that power, then it really has to you know, start sucking down the gas in order to give you that performance you want. So it all comes down to your driving style as far as whether maybe a naturally aspirated engine would be a better choice for you fuel economy wise, or the turbo. But it is nice to have the turbo with its extra punch, and then if you can take it easy on the gas, then you will get the very good fuel economy there. But yeah, so the last thing I want to mention here is the pricing of the Civic. So for 2019 here, including destination, a base Civic without the turbo engine and stuff, the LX, with the manual, which you can still get in those as well, those are going to be starting at just over 20,000. It's like 20,320, including destination. You know, before destination, you're, you know, just under 20,000 there. And then this one, this touring trim that I'm in now, these are just over $28,000. So that's about as high as you can get with a Civic. And so that undercuts, you know, like the top trim of the Mazda 3, those can get up pretty pricey, you know, about 1,000 or 2,000 more than this. You know, it's about in line with what you get even with like the top of the line Corolla now. With the new Corolla, you can really load those up, you know, to get pretty close to 30,000 as well. So I think this is very competitively priced and kind of undercuts a few of them as well. And you still have a very nice interior, still have all the features you want. I mean, heated rear seats and all that type of stuff. This also has a 450 watt stereo here in the touring trim, which sounds really good in my experience. I haven't, been jamming out too much today, but it does sound pretty good from the little bit that I, sampled. And so it's just a really nice car to just cruise around in, live with. And again, going back to that is why this is one of the best-selling vehicles in America, because of just how many people love it. And it's totally easy to see why they sell so many of these. It is like I said, it is so good in every area, so that it pleases every type of buyer very, very well. And that's something that's really tough to do that juggling act and balance everything out. And they did a great job with that. So anyway, huge thanks to Honda for providing me with this Civic to review for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on the 2019 Civics in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.